The next lecture will be held by Giora Zwilling, but it's written by Katarina Menschik. Katarina Menschik studied in Vienna and as a Fulbright candidate at the University of New York, at the City University of New York. Afterwards, she worked at the Leo Baeck Institute, and now she's a research associated at the Bad Arolsen Archives, and therefore a colleague of Giora Zwilling. So I would ask you to take it.
First of all, it was very moving. It was always a little bit hard to move from personal documentation of victims and involved people who write from their heart to our kinds of documents, which are much more like official and less, personal, and often are is the documentation of the perpetrator. So exactly, sorry. It seems that the presentation Katarina prepared for me is not working. We are not managing to send it. So I will just try to talk like a little bit about our project, and maybe the presentation is very it's very good, but it's a bit, it's very like factual and very laudatory. It tells a lot about the size. I will also, because I'm very involved in the project, I will try to talk a little bit maybe also about some of the problems and issues facing it, and maybe also a little bit about its future. Would it be possible to open just the ENC site? So the PowerPoint presentation starts with a little introduction of the Arolsen Archives. Yesterday I already talked a little bit about it. The Arolsen Archives were not conceived as an archive, but as a tracing service. They were founded by the Allied forces, who concentrated all the tracing bureaus and agencies in Bad Arolsen. It's in the end of the world, middle in Germany. It's a bit of a historical coincidence. It's just because there was room there. It was between the occupational zones, and it was not bombed, as was Kassel or Göttingen. So we still suffer the consequences. It's not very central. We cannot change it. But it's actually quite incremental for our digital strategy, because we are very, very far away, and nothing we do on site is really very accessible for anybody. It's, again, very provincial. So the main task of the Arolsen Archives was to provide information. We still do that. In the beginning, it was really the search for family members. Then it evolved into requests for documents concerning imprisonment, for compensation mainly. It means we have more than 3 million requests, and we still get 20,000 requests per year from relatives, and now it's more like genealogical, but it's still valid for compensation. The oldest collections we received, an original, came from the Allied forces. Then we started collecting documents. And because of our history, of which I talked a little bit yesterday, being closed for a very long time, extremely long waiting times for relatives until they get an answer, sometimes 3 years, and a very closed attitude towards research. Since the opening, we really tried to do the complete opposite of everything that we did in the past. The archive is very big, and since 2017, most of the historical documents are online. Everything that we legally can, and some even that we legally can't. The only obstacles are ethical. We don't publish patient files, child tracing files. I think I told it yesterday, but we hope to add metadata. The main obstacle for use of the archive is a not very high degree of cataloging and indexing, because we are a name-based archive. We try to index all the names to enable search digitally for users at home to enter a name and to find the exact document on which the main name is mentioned. So now we are getting closer to Everynamecounts, which is the theme of this talk or of this presentation. this we do with our own in-house department, 15 people indexing names, but when you think about 30 million documents, it will take some time. We try to do that also with companies such as Ancestry, who did it pro bono for us. Wasn't a very good experience. The quality is not very good, but no, it's better than nothing. We also had tenders, which are okay, but you have to think the people who index, they normally sit in different countries. Ethically, it's because they don't get paid a lot of money. A lot of time they don't even understand the language which they are writing. The quality, again, is wanting. And somewhere in 2020, there was some kind of an initiative to do something with students in Hessen, actually, where we are located. And we were having like thoughts about crowdsourcing and about the possibility to use some kind of a way to harness the power of the crowd for crowdsourcing. It was an impulse, I have to be honest, by the directorate, but we already had thought about it. In the beginning, very classically, we were thinking, we will build something. We know a company in the Netherlands, they will do something. But then, fortunately enough, we understood, the scale won't be nice. It would be too complicated. And we started looking at the market. It's very interesting to see what other people are doing, and found Zooniverse, which is an open source platform. I think it's the University of Oxford and others, but I'm not sure, so don't quote me. But it's pro bono. The only thing that's completely open access. I mean, everything you upload there stays there, and you actually, how do you say that? You agree to publish it as open data, but because we believe it's important, we decided to do that. Not every archive is willing to do so. It has also GDPR issues, but again, don't quote me. And we started, it was then called Jeder Name zählt, and was intended for schools in Hessen. There were like 20 or 30 schools working on deportation lists from the areas where the schools are, from Kassel and from Frankfurt, Wiesbaden and other cities. And me, as head of the cataloging department and in charge of indexing, I was thinking, well, it's a nice thing. It will be very touching for the students, but probably the metadata we will receive will be horrible. I will just give it afterwards to my indexing department. They will do that fast, and then we will publish, and everything will be fine. But we were actually quite amazed because the metadata was good, and the students were extremely touched. I don't have like the quotations now because of the thing with the PPT, but especially at that phase, people could really relate to the material. Deportation lists, it's not very, it's just lists, but the fact that you have names of people and their age. And sometimes you see they are students and they live in a street you know, in a city you know. That was quite interesting. And then came, and was, well, I think successful. And we started thinking about making the project bigger, and then came the pandemic, which was actually for us in that context quite good because people were at home, and we saw the need to expand it very fast. The first phase was just supplying work for all our employees who were forced to stay at home and who didn't have a computer from the work. We had some, like 100. In the beginning, so we uploaded materials and we started glaring the project. And then somewhere, I'm really bad with dates, I think it's January 2020 or 21, it's a blur to me now. We launched the new phase of it, which was called Everynamecounts, which in between became like a brand name. I even think we are checking on making it like, how do you say that? A registered symbol, but that's again a different matter. And if in the beginning we uploaded like hundreds of lists, we moved on to uploading millions of documents actually from concentration camps and mainly concentration camps at that point, Häftlingspersonalkarten, prisoner questionnaires and so on. It looks, I mean, if we click at the Everynamecounts button, it's a very archival thing. It's really crowdsourcing and at its most basic. If you look at this, there is some text, there is a lot of explanations, but in its core, you choose a set of documents to index. There are basic workflows, there are more complicated workflows. You can click, for example, on basic Buchenwald registration forms on the upper left side. And then we predefine, I mean, the cataloging department looks at the documents, which were, by the way, electronically clustered. It's quite interesting, but we can't talk about everything. And we define the sets of data we want to harvest. In this case, for example, we already had the basic indexing. We had name, surname, and birth date, which a lot of the times have already been done by the archive, but we use the opportunity that we have the public to do a much more in-depth indexing and also add things like when the people were transported and so on. Exactly, and there is a lot of explanation, but it's maybe important to it's really a citizen science project. I mean, it's very, very archival, it's very dry, and we were quite amazed that a lot of people responded to that. I have the numbers, they are important. I think we have by now 25,000 registered users. That does not include people who are not registered. You are not required to register. There is also more complicated data analytic about how many people don't register and work, but I don't have it like prepared. People edited more than 4.5 million documents until now. That is something very important. It doesn't mean 4.5 million different documents, but you have to divide it always by three. That's our QA mechanism. Each document of each data set we upload has to be indexed by 3 different people in order to be retired, to be taken off the pool of available documents. That's like the rudimentary QA mechanism. Exactly. And the most amazing thing, which is quite interesting and also took us by surprise, there is a forum component in Zooniverse. And from its beginning, from the launch of the new Everynamecounts initiative in 2021, I think, we had 160,000 comments. Comments can be a lot of things. It can be people telling something about themselves. Most commonly, it's hashtags. I mean, child, prisoner, Nacht und Nebel. I think I talked a little bit about it yesterday. So, exactly. And the community around it is quite vivid. There are like heavy users. They change with times. Every few months there is a change in the group of users. It's a lot of maintenance. We have a lot of people like tending to the community because we try to answer questions and so on. We also did a lot of events around this, like indexing with the public and with schools and so on. But mainly the work is really of people alone, and the users are from all around the world. A lot of them have nothing to do with Holocaust and memory, and a lot of them are very touched. You can see that by a lot of the comments. Now, this is the current state of the project, which is now in some kind of a slumber. We don't add a lot because we actually received money from the government. Again, it's interesting to know. And this project, which always had like a tension between a commemoration component, like remembering the names of people, writing them down, and also contributing to a digital memorial or to a digital archive, as I see it. And the really technical aspect of like, archival work, very dry archival work, now is being pulled more towards a, how do you say, it should have a much stronger educational component. And because Zooniverse is an amazing platform, I really love it, and it comes with a huge scope and how do you say that? it's much bigger than the Arolsen Archives. I mean, it has its own user base, and people get to know it on from completely different aspects, and then they see the Arolsen Archives. But it was decided that we will move from Zooniverse, and we are now actually in the midst of building our own platform, which I'm really curious about, because on the one side, we will have much more control, especially on matters such as privacy. We could actually upload materials which we don't want to share as open data, or where the other archives that give us the material don't allow that. For example, we have a cooperation with the ICRC. We get the Drancy file cards of Jews deported from non-French Jews deported from France. This we would like to index, but on Zooniverse it wouldn't go because of GDPR. We can do that in our own platform, but we lose a lot of the public, and I'm curious to see if they will move with us, and how it will be when we do everything by ourselves. Another thing which should be much, much stronger, and we have to see how it will work, is the educational aspect. For example, if you can see now, the document speaks for itself. You see in this case, the Nazi document. You have some context. You can click on each field, and there will be a small explanation, but most of the people don't click that. In the new platform, it's envisioned that the data that we will enter will automatically generate a kind of a story, a kind of a text. X, Y was deported from, it's great, but it's also complicated, because you cannot always generate that story. How am I on time? Have a few minutes yet? Oh, super. Okay, so I'll come to a conclusion. So this is the future of it, and we are really quite interested in it. There are some small problems which I also would like to speak of. First of all, the supply of documents is finite. We actually understood in the course of the project that the public likes documents having to do with one person. These are the easiest to index, and most of the documents we have are already indexed. Where we have really a problem is lists, and lists do not work that well. We did it with Dachau. We have to find new solutions. So we are also thinking about, we are cooperating with other institutions, but it skews a little bit our acquisition strategy. If we have to find materials that are suitable for Zooniverse, it's not always the materials that we would like to acquire. So that is one problem. The other problem is the QA. It's actually quite amazing. Data quality is good, but I was very optimistic. We started harvesting really in-depth material, and the public, who is part of this project, it's not mine, I mean, it's their work, they expect to see the results very early, and we are in the midst of, it's hard to do quality assurance for things that are not names and birth dates. The more intricate the data gets, geographical things, where the person was incarcerated or why, it gets more complicated. So this is something we also have to think about. A lot of the people really expect immediacy, and it takes time. Archives are not very fast, and sometimes it takes half a year until the material goes in. So I think it was very fast, and I hope not too much, but a little bit about this project, mainly because I'm from the archive, on the archival side, and because also the educational part of it is still very, is growing. So yeah, that was from me.